Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. It's a pleasure to have you. I think today's session is quite an inspiring and interesting session. As you know, after COVID, or still we're seeing COVID, the world have faced so many challenges, and we're still facing them. And if you think of climate change, poverty, and all of the greatest challenges that humanity is facing, at the end of the day, they all can be summed up to one problem, which is education. So education has a key role to play when it comes to solving these issues. And universities and educational institutions in general are here to actually be part of the solution. So we have an amazing panel of leaders who are either took universities and changed them or improved them to be able to be problem solvers. But at the same time, we have also new models of how universities can be a source of innovation to solve these important issues. So we're gonna, instead of introducing the panel, I will let the panel introduce themselves in 30 seconds, if you can, of course. Please go ahead, Fadi.
All right, pleasure to be here. My name is Fede Michel. I'm the Assistant Provost for Innovative Learning Experiences at the American University in Cairo. My work focuses mostly on fostering collaboration, interdisciplinary collaboration between students, faculty, and industry and societal partners to solve real-life complex challenges. I'm also an advocate of human-centered design with huge passion for applying this innovative technique to solving complex problems, which led me to founding Ergo Design, which is a human-centered innovation strategy and innovation design firm focusing on solving business, societal, and behavioral challenges using the human-centered design principles. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Fadi. We have with us Ben Nelson, who just flew from the US. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ben Nelson. I'm the founder of Minerva. Minerva is actually two organizations. One organization is what is today the most effective university in the world that's based in San Francisco and was, some people claim, was built to be a post-pandemic university, except I built it 11 years ago. So that's a spurious claim. But the second aspect of Minerva is the Minerva Project, which is a company that helps other universities and high schools reform how they educate and kind of follow in the footsteps of Minerva University.
Thank you very much, Ben. We have online with us Nicolas Sadirak, I think from France.
Yeah. I
think your mic is not...
Yeah, my mic is open. Do you hear me?
Yes.
But I have a very strong sound back. Larsen. You have it?
Sorry, we couldn't hear you. Can you try again? Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can, yes.
Okay, thank you. But there is still, the Larsen is out. Okay, it's perfect. Thank you very much. So I am Nicolas Sadirak. I'm the co-founder of a school which is called 01 Edu, mainly based on the idea that we actually can train students who are not in the academic usual track. I have been in education IT talent for the last 25 years. I have trained a little bit less than 100,000 worldwide. And we are promoting a new concept of school and company, because I think I have been engaged in university, I've been engaged in private school, but I think we have a challenge to train more than around 10 million full stack developers. And I think the only way to do it is to have a profitable and sustainable model that grows by itself. So that's the whole idea of Zone 01. I will develop if you want.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Nicolas. And we have with us finally Edward Fidoe. I think I'm spelling correctly. Yes, please go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. My name's Ed, and I started off my education journey back in 2012 when I co-founded a school in London called School 21, and that was a 4 to 18 school, or K-12 as the Americans call it. And that was all about trying to create an education that's richer and broader than just focusing on 3 exams, which is what happens in the UK system. And that got me thinking about universities. And so this year we opened something called the London Interdisciplinary School, which is the first institution to be opening with its own degree awarding powers in the UK since Warwick University in the 1960s. And that has enabled us to launch with a truly innovative degree, because we don't have to be regulated by another university in this country. So yeah, I can say more about that, but that's what I'm up to.
Amazing. So, you know, it's very inspiring to see we have 3 continents and 5 countries here. You know, and each of these panelists has, you know, has led a new kind of, you know, innovation to I would say, improve the system. I would not say change it completely, but at least improve it, because there are a lot of things to improve. I would start with Dr. Fede. When it comes to challenges, how do you think universities could solve, you know, the most pressing challenges, and how can this be at the center of the curriculums of universities?
I think the simple answer is to design curriculum, human-centered curriculum, interdisciplinary curriculum that integrates those challenges into the fabric of the learning experience. However, the challenge we face when we try to apply that is that the existing education system has been designed to produce workers to fit specific molds. And every time, and that was like with the Industrial Revolution, every time we design new curriculum, for some reason, we keep that system constraint, which doesn't make any sense. The world has changed dramatically since then. Challenges are becoming more complex. They're more interdisciplinary by nature. And the linear approach to problem solving is no longer valid. So there is a pressing need to rethink our curriculum, our degrees, and design truly interdisciplinary experiences where those complex, real-world complex challenges are addressed directly, intentionally into the curriculum, not as a side project like what happens today in the classroom, because people are trying to, with experiential learning, they're trying to do a real-life project on the side, but they still approach it from a disciplinary perspective because it's a finance class or it's a sociology class trying to tackle the problem. But if we, from a grassroots, change what the formation looks like and what the different entities within the universities represent and defines, then we'll be able to design truly transdisciplinary experiences and not just a component that can be plugged into a disciplinary system. Amazing.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting because if you want to change things, you can either have a revolution or an evolution. And I think that what we can start is by having an evolution. And in order to improve, I would say, the university system, we need to partner with them. We cannot just say that universities don't exist and let's do our own things. And that's very interesting to think about what you did, Ben, because with Minerva, you partnered with universities and you're partnering with them to actually come up with new curriculums that can be really, can push students not only to be ready for the future and the job market, but also be future leaders that can solve issues and challenges. So please tell us more about this.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the most important things to understand, that the university system is already not only built, but it's embedded in society. And to build alternative systems is not a bad thing. It's a good thing to try. But at the same time, it's never going to be able to reach the kind of scale, given the societal investment in the existing system, unless the existing system continues to delegitimize itself. And so we have an opportunity to prevent the revolution, but to embrace effectively a reformation, which is to take what is great about universities, right, the gathering of great talent, both on the professor side and on the student side, to provide the time and space that's necessary for learning, but actually reform what it is that they do at their core. And I think, just as Fede has mentioned, I think what's crucial is to integrate real-world problems into the curriculum, but not to abandon a structured approach to learning in the process. And this is actually one of the core problems you have in, you know, let's say, pro and counter-revolutionary forces in higher education, right? The pro-revolutionary forces will say, you know, you throw out the kind of the academic discipline as a basis and replace it with go and do the project-based learning or the direct applications immediately. The counter-revolutionary forces say, no, 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 you have to learn your disciplines, you can't touch real world until you do that. In our view, actually, you have to blend the two, but actually recenter on a third aspect. And the third aspect is frameworks. Unfortunately, when you try to approach problem solving by just solving the problem, you don't really get to understand whether or not you made a mistake. As we all learn, an N of 1 is not statistically significant. You actually need deep understanding of frameworks to apply to problems. And then you have something to reference. What worked, what didn't, what worked but shouldn't have worked, what didn't work but should have worked, and figure out why. And so what we work with universities, we help them create a taxonomy, an intellectual language, which becomes the center of their education and actually uses disciplinary education to support it, and then uses and really creates an interdisciplinary approach to support it, and then an application for real-world problems as a demonstration. But it's that central taxonomy which really makes the Minerva education a Minerva education.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. At the center of the challenge, of challenges that the world are facing, what we call the why, most students, when you ask them, why did you come to school this morning or the university, they tell you because I have to. And so the why is quite important when you deal with students, because now, you know, they have everything, you know, at hand. So if you don't motivate them with a strong purpose, they will not want to go and work harder. So I'm really keen to know more about, Ed, what you guys do to really put the why at the center of, you know, the challenges at the center of the education and the curriculums.
Yeah, so I actually agree a lot with what Ben's been saying about the disciplines. If you did away with the disciplines quite quickly, you try and find some other way to categorize all of the world's knowledge. And the disciplines are actually very helpful at doing that, and they've stood the test of time. But for us, the starting point is the problem. So we don't start with frameworks, we start with the problem for at least half of our curriculum. So this term is inequality. And then what we have is then the students take 4 or 5 different disciplinary lenses on that problem. So they might take a philosophical angle, they might learn some network science to look at inequality, or they might look at it from a linguistics perspective or an economics perspective. And they're working in teams doing that. Some of them are looking at different disciplinary perspectives through the term, and then they come together as a team to create a product, which they're presenting next Friday, actually, for the very first time in our history. So that's exciting. Hopefully we're going to get to do it face to face. We're trying to decide that today. That's the other problem that universities are wrestling with right now. And the students will have come up with probably something original. It might not be very good or very useful, but it's almost certainly going to be an original perspective on the specific part of the problem of inequality that they've chosen to look at. So some of them are looking at, for example, the racialized wealth gap. And they'll have taken these different perspectives. And that is something that they're passionate about. They're not all passionate about inequality. Next term we're looking at sustainability, which some of them are more passionate about. Some of them are really passionate about technology and the risks that poses in the future, and that's what's happening the following term. So the problem is really at the center. And I think the powerful thing about putting the problem at the center is that it moves away from this idea of, which some universities do, of putting the profession at the center. Putting the discipline at the center has some benefits and it can work for research, but we really have to move away from professional-based degrees because the professions are more under threat than these problems, sadly. We don't know what the professions are going to look like in the future, but we've got a pretty good idea that these problems will persist, and if we have an interdisciplinary way of looking at them. And the final thing I'll say about the benefit of putting problems at the center is the problems act as a kind of API for us to talk to and connect to outside organizations. It's very hard to do that if you're just looking from a disciplinary perspective. If you're just doing a chemistry degree and you want to talk to the World Wildlife Foundation, it can be quite difficult. But if you're looking at sustainability and you can bring all of your academic lenses to bear on that problem, then you can have a really powerful conversation with that organization or actually many other organizations. So the problems provide a language, a tool, or a framework, if you like, for us to talk to outside organizations, the students to do placements, and to understand how those outside organizations also think about those issues.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing this. If you want to deep dive a little bit on the challenges themselves, and especially on one of the most important challenges, which is youth unemployment, which is quite interesting because we also want those youth to be the source of innovation to solve other problems. So if themselves they cannot find jobs, then we have a problem here. So this is what very interesting, because at the same time there are some sectors like technology, for example, where there is a shortage of talent. And many companies telling you, we're looking to recruit more developers and more data scientists. So I'm very interesting to know, I'm very keen to know from Nicholas, how do you guys bridge the gap between the shortage of talent in the tech sector and your trainings? Basically, you are training hundreds of students, or maybe thousands, I don't know, to be ready to come into the job market in technology. We cannot hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first, I guess I am the revolutionary guy in the team. So mainly we don't have any teacher at all in our process. It's all challenge based and fully gamified. So I think first we have to understand what we are targeting. Okay, that's something which is very complex to explain, but mainly one of the problems today is we are going to lack around 10 to 15 million developers worldwide in 2030. That's most of the study. And we can't train them in the traditional way. I know, of course, it would be wonderful to transform the university, but I gave up on it. I have been teaching in university, and it's too slow as a process of change actually right now. What we do, we start from what are the needed of companies, and what now the company need in IT, it's not people who know how to code, it's people who are able to co-create, to innovate with them. So it's a curriculum which is based on the zero knowledge transmission. That means that we do believe that knowledge is not anymore the issue, but the capability in front of a problem to create a solution which is innovative. So we focus only on the creativity and the capability to co-create, to create what we call collective intelligence. Okay, we do believe that the individual capability it's not anymore relevant in front of complexity and in front of the kind of challenge that we have. So we design and it's not something that I am not coming from education background. I am the founder of the first hacker pen test cyber security company in France 30 years ago. And I went to education because of the lack of talent. We didn't find out of the best university in France the people who were able to face the challenge of our clients. So I start to train people to fulfill this gap. And slowly by slowly, I discovered that the gap was not about the knowledge, but it was the way the people are able to create together. And we design a curriculum which is 100% peer-to-peer, 100% gamified, and which brings a gap. And in what I heard before, there is some points which are very important. The first one is the engagement. You don't bring people to be good in something if they are not engaged. And I don't think you can engage anyone if it's not a passion for him. So you have to, what I think we lack something which is very important in our education system, it's time where the students can find what they love to do. You know, most of students, they will go to a field because they were good in math when they were in high school, or because they were little less good in math, but a little bit in biology, and they end up in the university doing something that they didn't know even what it is. And when they arrive at the end of the study, they are very deceived in between what they expect of the job and what it is. So it's very important to spend time to understand where do we feel passion and where can we bring something by itself. So we spend a big attention of selecting the students in the program so that we are sure they are really willing to be passionate full stack developer and be able to be part of an innovation process in the company. So I think it's the most important thing. Another part which has not been developed, a lot of people are speaking about interdisciplinary, but we are not speaking about what is changing. What is changing is today that we have AIs coming up. Okay, we have tremendous computation capability, and most of the jobs are not going to disappear, but they are going to deeply change the way we will add value in the future because of AI and because of very, very high computing power, brought mainly by quantum, but not only, okay, will change deeply where we add value. We used to have a lot of people doing repetitive tasks, very simple tasks, which is just based on knowledge and applying process, and we used to train people to get this knowledge and get those process and train them to do it. That is totally irrelevant. The computers are doing that very well. So we have to rethink totally what is, as human, what added value we can bring to a community. So that's very important because I love a sentence of Jack Ma who say most of the curriculum in university right now are doing bad computers. We are training students exactly where the AIs and the process knowledge and data science process are good at, which means at the end of the day, all those students won't, all those people, because they won't be students anymore, they won't have any added value. A computer will do their job very easily. And that's, I think, the most important discussion about education. It means that a lot of people are speaking of the way to do stuff, but very few people are speaking of what is the target that we should change. So we are bringing a lot of power in tools to reach our target, but we don't change the target itself, which I think is the most important nowadays.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you for this. I think it's a very important point. There are a lot of points that are very interesting. One of them is indeed with AI coming, we need, instead of scaling students to be technically good, we need them to be humanly good, which is like they have a strong human intelligence so that they can adapt, what we call soft skills, and I hate the word soft skills because they are the most important skills. And most companies that we deal with ourselves when they want to recruit, whether in banking or in finance, in tech, they are looking for the mindset. They are looking for this ability to adapt, this ability to learn, because the technical skills will be done in the company. So knowing this, we're talking about the sense of purpose and the mindset again. How could universities, I'm asking you this question, Fede, how could universities implement not only career readiness, but meaningful career readiness and develop within students a sense of purpose for them to be willing to develop these soft skills and this mindset and be competitive in the job market? Sure.
I'm glad that you hate the word soft skills because I think what we used to call soft skills are today, they are survival skills. Whether they're cognitive or metacognitive, whether they're social emotional skills, whether they're creativity and communication skills. And you're right. I mean, this is what the AI is missing and lacking, and technology cannot. I mean, it will take a lot to get us there. So it's not just about whether it's the revolutionary or evolutionary approach to redesigning our curriculum, our learning experiences. It's not just about that, but we need to intentionally design for competencies and mind skills that are transferable to the workplace or to life in general. This could be, I mean, part of this is through co-creation, whether it's co-creation between different disciplines or co-creation with industry or societal partners and so forth. Exposing students to such experiences is extremely essential throughout their learning journey to be able to develop all these different skills. Otherwise, the disciplines, the knowledge on their own is not really helpful. And I wanted to point out something else. There is a difference between organizing knowledge consuming knowledge, okay, and applying knowledge. And we can organize knowledge in a disciplinary way. We can consume it in a interdisciplinary way and apply it in a transdisciplinary way. And in each of these, I don't want to take too much time, but in each of these approaches, we can integrate different mindsets that help students become more comfortable with ambiguity. They know how to navigate ambiguity. They develop experimentation mindset to learn from failure, to develop self-efficacy and confidence that they can change. We want to develop change makers. We want to graduate people who are change agents. And without the mindset, without that sense of self-efficacy and the tools to implement, to apply that confidence to solving problems, we will not be able to make a change.
Thank you very much, Fede. To follow up on this, you go to most universities and career, and even high schools, there is one career counselor for 400, 500 students, which means that students go and study without knowing what they study and why and how this is relevant to their future dreams or vision or purpose. So, and therefore, they don't even know what skills they are missing. This self-knowledge and and this self-awareness, it has to be developed. But how? Because who's gonna, at the end of the day, pay for these programs? And that's a very important question. I know tomorrow is the financing, but I'll be keen to have your point of view on this, especially from a broader perspective. And what is the business model in order to be able to help better students? Because universities don't want to pay for this because it's out of scope. Companies only want to pay for those they're going to recruit. So who's left to actually invest in the development of this mindset and this purpose?
Well, I mean, that is the role of the educational institution. The problem is because it's again, either rooted in you learn a discipline, and in many educational systems, you have to pick that discipline when you're in high school and you're 13, 14, 15 years old, and effectively sets you on course for the rest of your life, which is insane, but is really a good way of producing subjects as opposed to producing free-thinking citizens. That's a problem, and frankly, the other approach where you just rush into solving problems, you don't know anything. One could be forgiven for then assuming, oh well, all you need to do is, instead of going and doing studying for 4 years, you just need to go and work for 4 years, and that's all you need. All you need to do is work. Well, if that was the case, the entire world would be wise, because every citizen in the world has worked for 4 years if they've been out long enough. And that is actually the core issue with the way that universities and high schools are structured. The correct way of structuring an educational institution is to enable students to make informed choice. And informed choice happens when you both provide an understanding of what is out there that you can explore and dive into, but also how do you actually get those transferable tools, as Fadi said, to be able to apply them. The only problem is that teaching tools in and of themselves doesn't allow a human being to transfer. Transfer is the hardest thing for a human being to be able to do. And in fact, there have been countless studies that have shown that transfer is practically impossible. And so and of course those studies have been done on disciplinary-based systems, right? And it's so bad that you could even get a whole bunch of professors from different disciplines to come together, and they will disagree that they use the same tools because they themselves won't be able to identify that their colleagues in a different discipline use the same tool that they're using because they call it different things. And so a process of informed choice that's built into the education actually does away with the need for counselors. Because as you learn various frameworks of thinking, as you are enabling students to transfer them deliberately from subject area, problem to problem, application to application, academic to job, different levels of mental flexibility. As you embed transferability as the point of the curriculum, as students progress through their education, they're able to then make informed choice as their educational capacities expand, right? And so we actually believe that you should start with a core curriculum, a curriculum that every student goes through in order to provide them those habits of mind, those foundational concepts that they can use no matter what it is that they're going to pursue. And then in that process of learning these tools, apply them to various cross-disciplinary opportunities, which then gives them an ability to make some level of choice as they get through that stage, and then make a little bit more choice in the next stage, and then have effectively infinite choice at that point, which is the point where they're able to actually add significant value because they have a systematic way of thinking and tackling problems.
Thank you very much. There's also one point that's very interesting is that we are in an era where there's millions of opportunities out there, online, offline, YouTube. You can get trained just alone. There are so many opportunities, in fact, that people are lost. They don't even know where to look for. And that's a question that I have for Ed is that how can we bridge the gap between those number of young people who don't even know where they want to go and then countless numbers of opportunities that are free out there to develop your skills and train? How can this matching happen, according to you?
So we've got a version of an answer, but it's certainly not the answer because I think it's an impossible question to answer. Our attempt is to try and raise awareness of the jobs that exist. I mean, most young people who are leaving school in the UK, I think it's something like age 16, about 50% of the students in the UK really only know the 7 or 8 professions that they see on the television, the lawyers, doctors, police, teachers, the things that people make TV shows out of, right?
Sorry, I didn't mean jobs necessarily. I meant training opportunities, like self-development opportunities, and then, of course, jobs.
The ways they can be connected to opportunities to learn.
Yes, that are out there.
Okay.
They are like completely, free for most of them, and they're available. Yeah. Sorry for cutting you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I think so. One of the things we're doing is actually in our second term is actually we're doing this next term is starting to look at getting them used to that by integrating those courses, those free courses, into some of our teaching and learning. And it's quite an interesting one because by bringing in, let's say, Code Academy in to help us teach them coding, you could have the accusation that you're just outsourcing your teaching and learning, but what you're really doing is trying to say, well, no, this is kind of a version of a textbook in the olden days, and what we're going to do is do the facilitation and the kind of show you how to transfer this into new contexts. So that's one way, is to sort of get young people to think of the world out there as being a place they can go and learn. But we're trying to train them to navigate what is now a networked, knowledge is now networked. It used to be organized in libraries, in corridors, right, with the Dewey Decimal System. And now it's everywhere. It's completely networked. All knowledge is next to each other. And the education system hasn't reorganized, but young people coming into the education system now think of knowledge. They don't think of it as terms of libraries and corridors. They think of it as networked. So we have to actually do training more for the faculty and our teachers than we do for the students on that. But once they start to think in that way and they start to become navigators, then they can then kind of explore for themselves and learn for themselves. You have to give them the confidence to think like researchers in a way, to think that they're not trying to just search for the answer in the back of the book. They're trying to build their knowledge to be able to look at the problem in an original way. Once you give them that confidence, then they can explore more readily, and they can explore things they're interested in rather than the things that they think they're going to need for the exam.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, I like the word navigator, because actually the education system was like a buffet, 3-course menu. Now it becomes a buffet. You have to go and you have to pick and choose what you want to eat. But you need to taste. But sometimes you don't have the time and energy to taste everything. So this is why the sense of self-awareness and purpose, I think, again, and the right mindset that you mentioned, combined with the help of the universities, combined with the help of all of the ecosystem, can help students actually navigate and become navigators. I know we only have 4.5 minutes left, but I want to open it to questions. And I know, if you have questions on the audience, I know you didn't expect this, but Is there any question? I have thousands of questions more, so this is why, yeah.
So I'll go for one. It goes to Ben in particular, because you were speaking about, the correct. Oh, sorry. So,
Just go ahead and I'll repeat your question in case.
all right. So I'll try to shout as much as I can, okay?
Yes.
Anyway, I was very interested in your, thinking about basically curriculum first or, the real life kind of journey. And, what we do at ECC, we've got hundreds of companies engaged in education. So we are very, very much trying to build on the weakness of universities, not understanding the real life. So how do you really tackle it when it comes to Minerva schools? Because it might be very difficult to basically put together the curriculum, which will be reflecting the real life, because it is designed actually by people who are outside of that, part of life.
Yeah, it's actually one of the great privileges to be able to recenter education, right? And there's been this historical divide between this concept of, okay, well, you have a theoretical world, which is the university world, and it's kind of useless because in the real world, people actually solve real problems and they don't use the way universities think, both of which are actually broadly correct. The only problem is neither university problem solving nor corporate problem solving works. If it did, we wouldn't have the world we have today. And so the thing that is actually missing in both is systematic thinking. It is the ability to learn how the basic rules of the world that we inhabit work, and then how you apply them, whether you apply them in academic research capacity or in trying to solve world hunger or in trying to make your numbers for a particular quarter in a corporation. And so what we did was actually break down the various systems of thinking, of analysis, that pervade the world that we live in. Everything from the world of formal or algorithmic systems to the observed world, empirical systems, to the world we actually live in, which is a complex world of interactions and second and third order effects and emergent properties, and then the abstract world, the rhetorical world, that we communicate and interact and work with one another. And then we broke those systems down into component parts. And teaching those component parts as the subject matter allowed our students to apply what they learn immediately. And we have this fascinating, now we have a number of classes that have graduated, and we see kind of the outrageous impact they have in the world. But perhaps the clearest difference is we have a master's program which is for working professionals, working executives. And one of our master's students, a month into her studies at Minerva's MDA, went back to her company on a problem they were not able to solve for 6 months and said, okay, I've got a new framework of approaching this. And in one afternoon, she solved the problem. And that really is the power of systems thinking. And that's effectively why recentering university education is so important.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. Any other question?
Yes. Hi, my name's Xing. I learned from the traditional way of teaching and learning, schooling. But also, I had a friend who's graduated from Minerva University. So I definitely resonate with everything that we have and we say on the stage. So my question concerns about the limitation or the boundaries of the so-called future fit university. Because what I saw, the success it's have more to do with students studying art and humanities, social sciences subject. So the question is a boundary set is it possible that this future fit university doesn't really necessarily apply for science, like scientific or theoretical mathematics subjects? So is there any discipline that this might not fit? Thank you.
I wouldn't necessarily think the same approach would be for if you want to train somebody to be a classical pianist, or maybe the future dentists of the world. That probably the dental process right now is sufficient. It doesn't need a fundamental rethink. But the reality is that and I'm assuming I'm speaking for everybody here, but we've seen transformative outcomes for people going into business, scientific research, in the exact sciences, in arts, humanities, and social sciences, and business, etc. So I think broadly, there's a much more use for, any of the approaches I think that we've been talking about here, whether it's kind of framework orientation or interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, than kind of the straight and narrow, at least from my perspective. I don't know if you have thoughts.
Is there anyone?
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
would think that is mainly in the art science field, where it's the most efficient, mainly because they are not exposed to this situation in most of some traditional education. I have been a scientific student, so I have done a PhD in physics in Stanford, and when you do your whole journey of study, you are mainly in some very, very simple world. Everything is kind of organized so that you don't, you apply rules which are supposed to be the rules of nature, and everything works. So it's very simple, and I think it's specifically for scientific and mathematician where they gain the more if they are exposed to a more complex situation and a more human situation. Because even in their own research, they find to be exposed to complexity, open mind, and makes them find new solutions. We are, at least in France and in USA, we are in a very mindset where we think that the most clever people are able to find the best solution. Most of the time it's not true. It's a group of people. It's much more efficient to be a group of people who are not necessarily the best, but who are very diverse, who are very we have very different point of view and are able to exchange. And the key point is are able to exchange, because at least a lot of our training tend to make people not able to exchange, not able to co-create when people are different, because we tend to judge, okay, this guy is not able to help me on my math problem. For example, we make a group with one guy is coming from human science, one guy is coming from physics, one guy is coming from mathematical, and each one will take care of his own field, but they have very hard time to accept that the one who is coming from, for example, music, is able to challenge the guys who is doing physics. And when you can make that work, you get amazing results. Like, I just don't speak about great result. It's a new level of result. You create what we call collective intelligence. And if you have time, I would advise you to read a book which is called Supermind from MIT, which is really a new level to find solution by creating collective intelligence, where people are not adding value, are not adding skills, but they are not competing. They are kind of challenging each other in the ways that the challenge get better. Okay, and if you can get this mindset, which is very difficult to get in the traditional education system, you get a much higher solution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I think we have time for one last question. If not, then I have a question, one last, which is just to follow up on what you said, Nicola, is now young people now need, in order to transfer knowledge, you need for the students to have their time and attention. These are the most important thing of a student, that this is the exchange. So in order to get the time and attention of students, knowing that the attention span is really reduced, what are the techniques that maybe through your curriculums you've been trying? It could be, I'm sure games is a very important one, it could be sports, it could be music, but what are the techniques, maybe the neuro techniques that can be implemented to increase the time and the attention span of students so that they can grasp more skills and knowledge?
Maybe I can have a quick answer on that. We open schools where students have no attendance. It means they don't have to go in class. They don't have any kind of registration. For example, we have a school in London, the 01 Founder School in London. You have students who have no constraint. Even though if you look at the time they spend in a week, they will spend around 70 to 80 hours a week on the challenge. I don't think the students nowadays lack of attention. I think we have been trained to have students who were very submissive. They were following rules and have no much opportunity. Now they are exposed to a very large, wide opportunity, and what we need to bring them is something which has a meaning for them and which is interesting. Okay? And the real question is that, for example, I always give an example. When I was a student, my physics teacher was a rock star for me because I had only 3 channels on TV. The library was closed at 6. Okay, and I had nothing else to think. So this guy was providing me challenge and thing to think each week, and it was quite the best experience of my life. My son, who is also studying physics, as this guy is coming, but in the same time, during the week, he can go on YouTube and see the speech of the Nobel Prize on the new rock star and everything. So what changed? It's not the attention of students. It's that what we provide them, it's not fun enough. It doesn't bring enough sense for them. Okay, that's very important. And how we can do that? I think it's not exactly the gamification which brings attention. It's the recognition. You need something where you feel good when you succeed. And a good way to make it is to have a community, which in our case is a students community, which recognize your value. You know, for example, students spend, not students, but young people spend hours playing in World of Warcraft. Okay, why do they spend hours? It's very challenging. It's very difficult. And if you look at the cognitive skills that it uses, it's very high. It's very tiring. So it's much more demanding than using what you do in most universities. But they spend hours and even full time on those games. Why? Very simple. They get recognition. Their friends are amazed. Oh, you did that. You did this challenge. You keep this dungeon. Wow, that's great. And that's all what you need. You need a recognition. And in the traditional institution, we lose that. Yeah. The more students don't respect anymore the institution. They don't feel like if they have great grades, they are great people. When I was a kid, it was the case. When I succeed in school, I was very, very proud. Nowadays, they are not. They are not because there is so much noise around. But still, when you get them recognized by their peer, it works very well. Okay, and people, and they spend, like I can tell you, when I was managing 42 in Paris, I was spending my time to kind of reduce the time the students work, and they have other activity like social and also cultural activity. So it was when you get the students engaged in something, when they like it, they are like crazy on it. It's not a question of.
Thank you. Sorry, Nicola, just for time constraints. I think the process of course, recognition is important. Just to finish, I don't know if Fede, you had the last thing on this specific, or maybe tool. Maybe I'll leave it maybe for like 20 seconds each if you want to close on something.
Sure. I mean, I was just following up on that specific questions. If you look at, if you want to engage students, you want to understand their needs and you want to appeal to those needs. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy, yes, recognition is there. I mean, the social needs is there. But if you look at the top of the pyramid, the self-actualization, and you need to provide them with opportunities where they can achieve self-actualization. And we, as human beings, we look for opportunities to apply our skills or knowledge or whatever to solve a problem, and that makes us feel good. It builds our self-efficacy, and it takes us a step closer to that top of the pyramid need, which is self-actualization. This is why designing learning experience with deep purpose, with deep connection that translate impact on real people, human values, and so forth. I think this is the main way that we need to rethink our learning experiences.
Thank you very much. Ed, you want to close on something?
Hey, I don't have much to add. We're out of time, so I just want to say I've enjoyed the conversation. Thanks a lot, and sorry I couldn't be there with you all. Hope you're having fun.
Of course. Thank you very much, Ed. Maybe the last word for you, Ben?
I would just echo what's been said. I think everybody here is thinking about what the post-pandemic university is like, and I would just argue that we should think about what the pre-pandemic university should have been like. That's probably the best way of approaching it.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone on the panel for being here. I think we're going to leave just this panel with a message of hope. I think that the future is yet, the best is yet to come. There are some great ideas. There are some people that are working very hard to improve this from within. So the best thing to do is to keep believing that things will be better. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.